three, four, do 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 do. Pow pow pow. What's the topic? I heard one of those songs, on a short that I heard last winter. And mind you, last winter when I heard it, I was up there in the Rocky Mountain house. Pretty much a frozen like 3 feet of snow outside the door. And I was finishing up, the bottles of weed that I had. My supply of vodka. It was a weird winter. I mean, it was weird. Because I never lived in my house. Last December, by the way, I've had that house for 20 years. And most of the time I've owned it, I've been, either back when I was a garbage man, I was living in like a assortment of vehicles. And then actually this van actually traces all the way back from that era. And then I helped take care of that ranch, the friend's hobby farm, for about a couple of years after the garbage job. And then, then after that, it was the great age of trucking. So, I mean, I lived in my house for about a year when I first bought it, and then I moved out of state. They'd be like, well, did you rent it out? Well, it had old wiring, so I didn't bother. That's part of the reason I did the remodel, but, I never did find a decent property manager for that place. So I just, winterized it and sealed it. But, hearing that track kind of, you ever have, they talk about drunken flashbacks. You drink it again and you have a flashback. You hear, music and you have, kind of a weed dream flashback. And it's one of the things that kind of sucks about the fact that I'm not smoking weed, because I'm I want to be ready. If I want to apply for a job, I want to be so clean that, they can do a hair test and they'll be like, oh, yeah, you haven't smoked anything in a million years. Since last April 15th, basically. So this is it'll be well over a year. It wasn't intentional. I actually intended on finding a job last August, but, all the major companies were like, no, you got to have recent experience. I'm like, I have 9 years of experience and I actually love driving truck. And they're like, yeah, but you need recent experience. And it's like, oh, okay, what the fuck ever. And eventually, after a while of being down here in the wasteland, I just came to accept, okay, I'm going to have to go back to being fresh meat for fucking stupid reasons. So it's not the low pay that pisses me off. It's the fact that I know I'll have shitty loads when I work for these fresh meat companies. But yeah, I mean, if I look back at it, last winter, I wanted to be down here. But I was like, well, I kind of want to see. I had a few things to finish off in the house. Just little nooks and, okay, put these towel racks up, build this, finish this little thing here. And it wasn't really much. And if I'd known exactly what I was doing and just really fucking focused on it, I probably could have had it done in record time. But I didn't. And I had an air fryer that I got for free. So, I was kind of chilling at my house. And I just wanted to see how much it would cost, to live there for the winter. And mind you, I didn't really keep that house exactly warm. I got you. It's like when it's cold here in the mornings, it's kind of like what it was like in my house. It's just slightly warmer than it is out here in the mornings. If you go out and, you use the bathroom and use the backwoods bidet, if your hands get a little wet, the fingies get cold. That type of chill. It's not cold like you get cold instantly, but if you have your cell phone in your hand for a while, yeah, your hands will get kind of cold. I'd say, I don't know, I think, honestly, my thermometer, one of those big round thermometers of some sort of, I think it's got some bees in the background, says be kind. I think it's off by 5 degrees because I'm pretty sure when it said I was living at 45-ish, somewhere in that range, I was really living around 40-ish or lower in my house. And I was just like, I got used to it. And I started developing tactics, to actually deal with it. Because I wasn't going to heat the whole fucking house. I was just going to keep the rest of the house warm enough not to have problems with the pipes. So, I mean, I'd have the other rooms the ones I wasn't in, because I just stayed in the master bedroom. I had like towels in front of all the cracks of the doors in all the other rooms. That way, any sort of heating or cooling wouldn't go in there. And it's funny because you don't think about it, but like I was there like I got there in the summer and we started working on the house and we did pretty much what was finished by sometime mid to late August. And then there was just a little touch up work. So I'd actually lived there through a summer. And then I should say we, at that point, it was just me and the dog. And it was just like, what do I do this winter? I thought about going back to trucking that winter. I probably should have. But I was like, well, fuck it. My thoughts were kind of similar to what happened this winter, where it was like, well, it was about August. I went and applied for a bunch of companies. At least I called up a bunch of companies. And before I apply, I want to know if it's going to work out. I don't even want to waste my time filling out an application until I know whether the company, if they say, okay, yeah, you look like you'll match, then I'll fill it out. And that whole thing with the whole, well, you need a year or 2 years of recent experience. It's like, fuck, I haven't been out of the game that long, but apparently it's long enough to have problems. So at that point, I was just like, well, fuck it. I'm going to go over to my place on the West Coast, check that out, see how the trees have grown, which they had grown quite a bit. Alders grow like weeds. And I went, slowly made my way down here to the wasteland. But last winter, at this same time, occasionally I'd walk, like I'd stop going to the bars sometime earlier that like it was in the fall. I was just like, I don't know, man. I just got sick of it. And so I'd, occasionally go over, buy booze at the friggin', I had a bunch of vodka, by the way, ton of it. A bunch of sea ice and a bunch of red cup vodka, prefer sea ice. And I drank on that occasionally, but occasionally I'd go get some Four Locos. And I was always astounded how expensive Four Locos were. You get like 2 or 3 of them. 3 of them and I'm fucking tossed. 2 of them and I'm pretty goddamn good. 2 is about where you should stop. And Four Loko just gives hangovers. It's also more of a summer thing as well. But the ice, man. I mean, there were times my van would be parked in front of my house for a month. And I wouldn't move. I was just like, I was busy playing video games and smoking weed. I was playing this, a lot of the time I was just playing, you know what pisses me off? I wish I could have found, because I was playing my old PS3. Yeah, I tried giving Red Dead Redemption a try. I just felt like it was too much chores. Like, I don't want to do this stupid horse wrangling thing or this other stupid thing. I'm like, I just want to play a shoot 'em up. I thought it was going to be Fallout, but the Old West. And I'm like, no, this is definitely not Fallout in the Old West. And so I was playing the Sega Genesis Classic Collection. I played a fuck ton of Streets of Rage and the original Phantasy Star. Pretty much everything that was on there, I played it to a certain degree. And there was a few other games. Oh yeah, I replayed Symphony of the Night. And there was a while there, it was like, you guys gotta understand, the way I smoke weed is I balloon toke. So I could use probably like a third or even like 1/4 of what it takes you to get high, because I get more effect out of my weed. So between that and the vodka and fucking raging good orgasms, that's one thing about weed that I actually really like. It actually increases certain sensitivities. That's one of the reasons when I go back to work and it's like, it fucking blows. And I think, would I be having a magical experience down here if I was smoking pot and just having a little bit of vodka? One good vodka mixer and the balloon tokes. I bet I would be. It was funny because it became this kind of battle with me because my house has like, where there should be a door, there isn't, and there's fucking the snow just comes plowing off the roof onto the front. And then on the back porch, plowing off the top of that high-pitched roof down there. So it was kind of a daily battle. Because once the snow started coming and like it was right around Halloween, and then it kind of goes and then it goes away for a bit, but then the real storm comes and then it just gets cold and it just stays. So whatever snow you've got, you're going to have for a number of months. So my goal was to kind of keep my shit plowed, keep at least my walkway in good shape. And so there's places where I was chipping ice with my shovel, and I should have bought one of those. I should have ordered on Amazon one of those ice. It's made for like getting under the ice and fucking shit up. But that became pretty much my routine. And there was like 3 feet of snow right next to my walkway. That was just the regular height. And then there was the giant piles of snow that I was building just by shoveling the shit. And I had been in that frozen place for so long. No leaves on the trees. Pretty much so it was so normally cold that basically you just get used to it. I looked at a photo of the last fall of the golden leaves on the tree in front of the house. And my mind was just like taken aback. I'm like, wow, yeah, that's right. That is what the world looks like at that time of the year. Like there isn't this multiple feet of snow in the way, and across the street there isn't this giant, like my dog, I dug out this little dig spot to where he could go over the mound of snow to take a shit over by the abandoned pop-up trailer. It's kind of a vacant lot. It's the place where all the flowers are. If any of you actually saw back in the day the videos I was doing, I did some shorts like last summer of the hollyhocks across the street. Just amazing growth of hollyhocks that grow there. It was over there. Fertilized. Like those hollyhocks, just a side note, fertilized with my dog's shit. And and basically no water, no effort, and they just grow amazing. They're beautiful. And I lived in my house for about a year. I'd say. Not quite a year. Oh, let's see. No, was it a year? Yeah, I stayed there for a year. But yeah, man, it was a lot of playing video games. There was times I would bake baked goods in a crock pot in my bedroom. So basically, because my thought was, if I'm going to bake some brownies anyways, why not just bake them in this crock pot and then heat my room with the heat that's coming off the crock pot? The thing of it was, and it's kind of hard to explain to a lot of people, I didn't really feel like I was doing anything that I'm not really doing down here. Like if I'm just chilling out, watching TV, playing video. By the way, I got way better TV stations down here. But I'm just chilling out, watching TV and playing video games. I could do that fucking anywhere. This whole idea that I need to be at a house and all that. For what? I mean, I'm not part of like the whole religious, Kabbalah up there. I'm not Mormon. I'm not any sort of denomination. I'm not part of anybody's hometown anything. So I'm just kind of a guy that happens to own a house there. And being kind of a Shrek-like individual, sort of like, kind of a big nasty ogre. I'm not mean or anything, but basically, the most interaction I have with people, and there's some of it's just like they're kind because you're spending money. That's it. They're not even really kind. They're just, some of them are just less of an asshole is the best way I could put it. And I just, I gotta be real about it. I have absolutely no interest in living that way. Of just like, what's the fucking point? It's like there's an old guy down the block, and he's pretty old now. He's a fucking asshole, by the way. I mean, if we're just being honest. But his life is basically just living in this little double wide. And, goes to the bar, drinks a couple PBRs, watches the bull riding thing, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. I mean, I grant you that. But right next to his house, he has this old, jacked up gooseneck little mini trailer, and I'm like, man, if I was that old guy, I'd have a pickup truck and I'd be fucking doing that. I'd be down in the wasteland. I'd be up in the hills. I'd be living, motherfucker. I wouldn't be just sitting there waiting to die in my house. Because one other thing, I got to tell you, there is something kind of blessed about when you're doing that struggle to pay off the house. A lot of people don't get this. That battle to win, that it'll consume so much of your time in your life. It took me 6 years to pay off that first house. Because when I was younger, I didn't know the things I know now. I didn't know I could go to trucking school and be making the money I was making. When I did trucking. I was moving first 2 years, I wasn't making shit. And then once I got the garbage job, 4 years later, I had my house paid off. I wasn't even living in it. And then I look at that struggle way back in the first stage of progress, as I like to refer to it. That gives you something to aim for. And then the age of trucking, like the years that I was, there was a couple years where I got unemployment for a year and a half. I don't feel fuck all bad about that because I paid into the system. Lord knows I've paid into it. But that 2 years I helped take care of one of my friends' like hobby farm ranch thing. And then I went off to trucking. And trucking was just like a constant movement dream. Some good, some days bad. We're here, we're there, we're everywhere. So actually being stationary, living in my house for that winter, I don't know, man. I just felt like death. I don't know how to explain that. Like, the thing that would always tick me off is it was me having to live, and this is why one of the reasons I don't really care for houses. Me being forced to live by the rules of a bunch of other people who made up the rules for me before me was even a thing. I'm not trying to be some rebel or anything. I just don't want to have a bunch of other fucking parasites sucking my blood. I just want to be free. And out here, when I make my own power and I go in town and I fill up my water jugs, and I know what I do is fucking weird. I know. I'm not fucking stupid. I know what I do is different and weird. But it's my life and it's my way. And if I don't like where I'm at, I just move on. Even when I'm bumming change, I feel more alive bumming change than I do living in a normal situation. Like when I'm out there on the street, next to a Walmart or some type of store or truck stop, shaking my ass at the sign, making hundreds of dollars a day, living off $200 to $300 a month, and I wake up and there's just another horizon. It reminds me of trucking. Like where I'd wake up today, like one day, like say Boise, Idaho area. Next thing you know, I'm some part of Wyoming. Next thing you know, I'm, somewhere Illinois or some shit. Next thing you know, maybe I'm in Atlanta. Just like boom, 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 like fucking a homeless guy teleporting all over the world, man. I loved it. That's actually the main reason I want to go back to trucking. I loathe the idea that I'll have to be fresh meat again. But whatever. I mean, money's not a real issue for me. It's really just I don't want to do short hauls. I hate short hauls. Fucking hate short haul. I like the really super long haul. Like 3 to 4 days. And it's like the same thing. I like the life I live out here in the van. I like waking up and just doing my thing my way. I like, waking up and there's some birds chirping out there somewhere. Gather a little wood around. Use my rocket stove instead of using propane. I just cooked all my food today and a bunch of baked goods with my solar oven, man. I feel like today was I washed my laundry the other day in the river down there. Took a bath too and gathered some domestic water, like for the dog and whatnot. To me, this feels natural. Like it's the way. Like sometimes I feel like I'm like some neo-nomadic. Like some sort of, I don't know how to explain this, but like some sort of First Nations person. But like I'm not. Like I'm not First Nations. But I feel more connected to the land and living the way that I live. So when I'm like living in my house, it's just like, it doesn't feel natural. And it doesn't feel, I've never felt being surrounded by commonborns. I don't want to be rude when I say this. It's like that line from that song, because I don't like being surrounded by Pecco Woods. You know what song that's from. And yes, I do like fried chicken as well. That and malt liquor. But why do you drink so much beer? I don't drink beer, I drink malt liquor. But yeah, no, I feel more real. The way that I am. And yeah, I get it. They say, what are you going to do when you get old? I don't know. I guess I might have to live somewhere. But you know what? I would be still just as happy if I had like a van or an RV. Like a van, I was thinking the other day, like one of those 10 by 20 pop-up tent canopy things with the walls. Put the solar panels on that side. Take them from that side to put them over here on the other side. 400 watts, bigger solar system. And mind you, I should upgrade to an RV. But all the same, have like a 10 by 20 canopy thing, pop-up canopy. And just walk from my RV, potentially the canopy of the RV, over to my kind of like workshop type of thing. I would be fucking totally satisfied with that. I'd be perfectly okay with that. And if seasonally it's like kind of shitty in the Northwest, like if you got a wood stove, the Northwest is pretty okay. But it gets kind of, but you got to have something to do. Play some guitar, smoke a little weed, play some video games. But yeah, if I got tired of being in the Northwest, just head down to the wasteland. I could totally see myself being this way to the day I die. And I will proudly say it'll probably shorten my life. Being the way that I am will shorten my life. And I'm not saying like shorten like, super young dying, but that's always a possibility. But if I make it to like 80 something, but I'm like miserable, that's not, like if I died in my mid 70s or like somewhere around that age, it's better than being late 80s and wishing you were dead. That's kind of where I'm at with life. One of my relatives, a buddy, that would say, death before dribbler. He's like, if all that's left of me is a husk that's like, put me down. I said, well, you better write it in your will. Otherwise, it might end up happening. I guess the way that I've lived, because, and it's really, a lot of this traces back to what I refer to as the antiquity age, or the old era, as I call it. Back when I lived in the woods for 4 years, in my early 20s, there was a point when I moved out there, and there was a point when I was even younger than that, when I was a teenager, I realized I was never going to be normal. I was always going to be an outsider. And one day, I just accepted it. And instead of being like, woe is me, I just said, fuck it. If this is what life is, I'm going to have fun with this. Like when I was living out in the woods, at one point I felt a little down because I didn't have a girlfriend or nothing and all this. And then I thought to myself for a second as I was taking a wheelbarrow load of wood from the dumping spot back to where my homemade yurt was, to the wood stacks. I'm walking that wheelbarrow back on my little trail, and I'm like, yeah, but I sure don't have to deal with the problems my buddy's dealing with right now. He was dealing with some girlfriend and a head full of fucking problems. Like just drama, stupid male female drama. And I'm like, I just sit, I start smiling, and I don't generally smile that often. It's not that I'm mad or anything like that. I just don't smile. And I'm thinking to myself, God, I'm glad I'm me. And I guess maybe it was a good thing that I wasted last winter staying at my house. Because now I know I definitely don't want to be that person ever. There's just something like when I wake up and it's the early morning and I'm out there digging clams or picking mussels, or maybe I go smelting, maybe I pick some berries. If I'm lucky and I find some chanterelle mushrooms, you know, even cook up some baby stinging nettles. When I'm down here and there's a little cat-sized fox running around, I feel alive, man. For all the problems I've got, I fucking feel alive. And I never felt that way being around normal people, being around commonborns. And so for me, yeah, man, I want to live and die as a nomad. In this neo-nomadic lifestyle that I do, this is just who I want to be. And I know this more fuller than I did a few years ago because I stayed in my house for a year. So when the market gets better, the economy recovers, I'm fucking selling that place. You know? Anyhow, that's just some thoughts. This is Freedom Phil. Take it easy.